All right. Well, hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Let me know if you guys can hear me right or if you guys can hear me just okay. All right. Well,
Let me
everyone.
go ahead and put on my headphones.
I hope everyone's doing
Yeah,
well.
today's gonna be a fun
Let me know
one.
if you guys can hear me right or if you guys can
We're
hear
gonna go
me
over a
just
couple
okay.
different
All right.
things
Well,
that's happening in the community. Oh yeah, you guys can definitely hear me.
Yeah,
now.
today's gonna be a
That's
fun one.
awesome.
If you guys can
I'm
hear
glad
me
the
right
mics and
or
everything's
we're gonna
working
go over
well.
a couple
I know that not
different
everyone
things
has a Twitch, so that's why
happening in the
we're.
community.
Oh yeah, you guys can
I hope
definitely hear
everyone's
me.
doing
That's why
well.
we're
Today's gonna be a
definitely
fun
gonna go
one.
ahead and just do it this way, you know. So anyway, no, there's just a lot of different topics that we can go ahead and cover in this way. I think, especially when it comes to just ReZero and whatnot. Um, and we can also talk about like future anime that you guys really want me to go ahead and watch. Oh, was there an echo? Uh, how bad is the echo at the moment? Did it go away? Hopefully. And then AZ, are you really trying to? Are you trying to like pull for some? How should I put it? For some waifus at the moment? Oh, I'm glad it's gone. Yeah. There was something happening on my side. That was probably it. But anyway, what anime should I react? Since you guys are like the first one. Yeah, it was probably my microphone. You were probably hearing feedback. But anyway, no. So, what anime were you guys thinking that I should react, or that we should go ahead and do? Of course, yeah, force of habit. Now you got me all addicted to that Pokemon thing on the Discord. So that's pretty fun. That's pretty nice. Huh, that's weird. That's why. Huh. Boku no Pico. No, I mentioned that on Twitch. I actually got tricked into watching that. Not again. Not again. You got a whole sales pitch. What's the title of the anime? But like, I'll listen to your sales pitch later on. I'll go on like a private chat with you or a private like voice chat or whatever. Hey, what's up, Eduardo? How you doing? Letting you guys know this is going to be a two-part stream. First one's going to be here. The second one's going to go ahead and be on Twitch, where we have sort of a big surprise. Yeah. I saw your message. It's just I kind of want to know the name of the anime. Mushoku Tensei. Jobless Reincarnation. Actually, my brother did go ahead and recommend that one. Huh? Is it like completely done, or are we talking like there's still more like seasons or episodes to go ahead and watch? Go ahead and let me know on that one. But yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. It was a rather crazy day today, and I thought it'd be a lot easier to just go ahead and like get on here and sort of do as promised, stream a little bit, chat with you guys, see what's going on in your lives, talk about ReZero a little bit, find out what's good. Oh, okay. So season two starts in October. Nice. Nice. That's awesome. Let me check and see because I know some of the Discord people actually wanted to jump on board as well. So we'll give them a second. Also, Vardic, nice of you to be here. I love the fact that we're all sort of involved. 225th. Whoa. Okay, so at the rate that it's going, it's probably gonna have like a good number of seasons then, like 12 more. Yeah. Hey, good evening, good tiggle biddies. How you doing? Well, hopefully it goes well. Like it keeps on going. Hyoka. Wait, what is Hyoka? Probably not. You can't just leave it there. All right. So what's a character that like? Oh, light novel. That's actually something that I really should get into, and like, I guess this is sort of why I bring it up every time I can. Oh, it's 7 a.m. Wow, you're up early. But mystery light novel. Okay, so I Heart Underblade. Like, I gotta say thank you so much because like I've seen that like most of your comments just keep popping up a lot for me, and like I've read them. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your comments. Um, Bakemonogatari. I've heard of the series. Not Hyoka. I mean the Monogatari series. So that'd be interesting. I'd be down to check it out. I'll actually update a list real quick, so you guys might hear me typing as we do this, just so that I can go ahead and have a good list. But anyway, yeah, you're up early, Bardic. Is anybody else like up really, really early today? Or is it evening for y'all? Subtext the anime? Well, I mean, if subtext isn't everything, then what is, right? By the way, is there a character that you guys want me to cover today? Like, we'll do a little bit of a deep dive, psychology, whatever. Knock that out for a bit. Is Bakemonogatari the first one, or are there others? Because I know, like, sort of like JoJo, where different title names for different things. So if you can help me out with it, that'd be great. Ooh, at 10:30. Well, Tig old biddies, if it's midnight and you got a flight at 10:30, I mean, technically, yeah, it has 15 episodes. Oh, crazy me might actually like get into that, especially if there's a good number of episodes to like go into. Dang, that's the first. Awesome. Well, I guess we'll. Why did I spell it? It's Bakamonogatari. Yeah, sure, Bakamonogatari. That'll work. So I guess that's the first one. You know what? I'll check it out. I put it on my list as well as some of the others that we've been talking about here. All right, yeah, no, that's totally fine. Muskutense. Actually, I had finished like recording. What is it? A silent voice, right? And everything was great. I was about to upload it. Not I was editing it, and going through it, I found out that the file was corrupted to the point where like you could no longer hear how would you say it, like the vocals, like the voice, the audio at all. Like it was all over the place. So sadly, I couldn't really upload it. Really good series, a lot of good themes, a lot of good like psychology topics that we can dive into in terms of like attachment and like anxiety and the different representations. So that was really good. I actually started watching because I was like, you know what, I'm getting into ReZero and like I have to sort of start dipping a little bit into different animes just to see like I guess test the waters. And there's a new anime that's out right now about like pharmacists. It's really dumb, but yeah. So I was literally a silent voice, AV, but it's a really like down to earth anime that I think for some reason like it's so stupid that it just like I don't know. It's healing. The best way that I can put it. Like there's nothing to stress about other than like watching someone do repetitive action. It's not like SAO, I promise. That one's. Uh, do any of you guys like Sword Art or no? Hi, Grace. Yes, Pharmacist in Another World. There you go. Tensei Slime. Is that like I got reincarnated as a slime? I've been seeing the name pop up, but I'm like, oh. So I watched the first season of SAO, right? It's just like anybody else. Like, I mean, the abridged, I guess, does count. But like the first season was pretty good, and then it started going downhill rather quickly. It felt as though the focus was mostly on the first season in terms of like development, and then like sort of rushed the ending, and everything else was sort of like staggered together. If that's the way that I can put it. How do you feel about that, AZ? Do you just like it overall, or do you feel like I don't know the Death Gun or Gun Gale, whatever arc was good? Sao Bridge is fire. I actually like the Dragon Ball Z abridged as well, but that's just because that's what I grew up watching. But that's always fun. And just like the adventure. But to be honest, okay, I guess if we're gonna put it in that parameter, right? Like, if for some reason there's a virtual reality thing, just like SAO, and you were sent there, would you survive? Like, what would your first actions be in an SAO world? Like, I'll be honest, I don't think I'd survive as much. Maybe I'd start up a shop and just like uh cry, right? Unless like you're an expert at farming, in which case I think you might be able to go out like later on ahead. But then would you risk your life to try and continue sort of the stride of others or not? Or there's a lot to go into that. Sigma grind. It's gonna be a big brain, omega grind right there. Wait, what is Izuoka reviewers? Is that the interspecies reviewer one? Someone recommended that to me, but I wasn't sure if it's appropriate for me to watch because I just saw like the cover art, right? Get superpower. Oh, okay, so it's not the other one. I don't know, dude. Y'all recommend weird stuff on Discord. That's the best way I could put it. You know, I've heard some horror stories of Redo of Healer. Like that's one that sort of my brother told me to stay away from just because he's like, uh, it might not be good to go ahead and like go into that. A little spicy. Okay, thanks for the heads up on that one. You know, there was an anime, like I guess an anime that blew my mind. Right? We watched it in one of my psychology classes, and I can't think of the name now because I like we watched it and it just completely escaped my name. Like we'd watch like a couple episodes in class, but it was like cut down. Um, it was these children with like superpowers, and they were trying to save humanity, and humanity was like mole rats or pigs or something. And at the end, like big twist. Spoiler alert for those of you that haven't watched it. Like, actually, I'll just leave it like that. Like there, I'll leave it like that. See if any of you can actually find that anime and let me know what it was that like I was watching. Because the majority of the time, let's just say I was tired in watching it, but I was also sort of mind blown by it. How do I feel? See, I don't really mind body horror, but it's just like what is appropriate. Like, what can I show on YouTube? I guess or upload on YouTube without getting it like copyright or taken down. No, but it was like really specific on that anime where it's like, you know, these kids are like in a wasteland where humanity is no longer viable per se, and it's only kids that have like psychic abilities or whatever, and humanity, I guess, is on the brink of extinction by these mole rats, mole people type thing, right? I mean, the story is pretty typical, but like it was sort of like my first one into like I don't know how to put it, like getting into sort of like the psychology of what characters can do. To be fair, my psychology professor was a huge anime fan, so we would watch like Macross, Robotech. Uh, we haven't watched Neon Genesis, even though he told like that was sort of like the big
It is an anime, and that's sort of what I'm trying to find out the name of because it was a really good anime. I finished it in class, just never got the anime name because he sort of would edit things down just to make it palatable in class. Best way to put it. Yeah, he was amazing. He also showed what was the other one? He showed the first episode of Steins Gate and Fate Stay Night. I have not Rabbit Sama, which now I get your name by the way. Thank you so much, Rabbit Sama. um, okay. I guess this is a good hint. All I could remember of that anime and the reason why it like stuck out a lot to me was that it would play like Dvorak Symphony Number 9 to a New World, I believe, over some very very haunting scenes. So that's always fun. Steins Gate would be a pretty good one to react to. That first episode had me all types of confused. Well, I'm glad that. Actually, what is the most confusing anime y'all have watched? Like, first episode that you guys were just completely confused of. What is Fate Stay Night about? Give me a little synopsis, Rabbit Summer. Ghost stories. Okay. Is that the one where the English voice actors decided to, like, take a joke about it and, like, they dubbed their own things over it? I think I've seen a clip on YouTube about it. Wait, which one? Music Piano Forest. Let me Google this stuff while we're here. No. Here, I'll try and. From the New World. That is the name of the anime. So in case, like, not, I found it on Google. It's called From the New World. Literally typing in like the name of that was something. Ghost Stories dub is hilarious. I'm sure. Lane is the most weird one. Why is it weird? Like what all happens there? Bacano kind of confused me. Wonder Egg Priority. I've heard good things about Wonder Egg Priority. Like it's one of the constantly recommended one. It might be coming up next or soon. So that'll be interesting. Oh, there's a message checking. Psyculturists? Yeah, that's actually it. You got it. Battle Royale Boogie Pop. What is okay? Y'all are throwing names at me, and I am equally confused and entertained. Boogie Pop. What's Boogie Pop about? Oh, Wonder Egg's priority is pretty bad. Uh, uh, a battle royale for the Holy Grail. That's actually quite interesting. But is there like a lot of good psychological themes? Is it mostly like combat? What are we talking about? Madoka Magica. I've heard some good things about that one. Future Diaries. That one I've heard good things about as well. I heard with The Promised Neverland, I had a friend that was watching it and he hated season two. Like at first he was recommending me to watch it and then he's like, never mind, it's absolute garbage, don't watch it. You guys were so I don't know how I feel about that. Failed to conclude. Oh. You know what? I let me type that into my little like note thing here. If Boogie Pop is a good psychological thing, then I'll look into that. Oh, if Madoka Magic is nice and short, why not? Fate Zero is psychological. The only meme I know about it is like the whole "you cannot die" or "you cannot be killed if you're dead" or something like that. I forgot the. It was something silly. Okay, read the manga. definitely. Just watch ReZero season 3. Oh, I wish. Actually, we might do something special on Twitch later on for those of you that are on stream. That uh, it might be pretty awesome. I think. Ah, people die when they were killed. Yes, the dialogue. There we go. That's how. That's how we know that it's real. Oh, okay. Same. Why do I have a feeling that it's probably going to be dark? If you guys could recommend something, I always get the feeling that it's probably going to be really, really dark. Like, I just don't know how to put it. The fights are great. What's the name of that show where there's a zombie apocalypse? It's to constantly consume. That actually seems pretty cool. Odd Taxi. Huh. Well, all right. Let me know what Odd Taxi is about. Got that name there. Well, I already have the Monogatari series. People die when they're killed. Yeah, great. Odd Taxi is a gem. What's Odd Taxi about? Let me know. Yeah, well, I mean, they can be dark, but it's like I don't know how to put it. Like there's different levels of psychological anime or psychological shows that you can go into, right? So, well, at least it's not like a stereotypical. Uh, I don't know, like every now and then a couple like good harems can get you through a day, but after a while, I'm pretty sure it can like it'll get repetitive. Top Team Epic. I mean, maybe. Huh. That's interesting. See, now you guys like whenever y'all put that on there, I'm like, would be. I'll put it on my list for Pop Team Epic, but now I'm kind of curious as to what you watch all of One Piece. You want me to like grow old and like probably pass away? Yeah, that would be something altogether. I guess right now it's the goal is trying to get through season 2 of ReZero because that's fun. That's a fun one. By the way, did you guys get the code on the last one? Actually, I forgot to ask that. I should probably ask that now. Great. Did you get the code on the last one or no? Oh, the power of friendship saves everyone. Yeah, 100%, Alan. Either way. Ooh, okay, so you're not on the code on this one. Ah, that's interesting, because usually you're so on top of it. That's why I was like, ah. BT is Jujutsu Kaisen. That was streaming last last time, right? Like last season. Heard a lot of good things. Like people were just like on it on. Midnight, hi. How are you doing? Hopefully you're holding up okay, Midnight. Hopefully everyone is. I hope you're all having a good day. Hi, Spider-Will. We're talking about different animes for possibly reacting in the future. I have a couple already listed on here. What would you rate the psychological aspect of ReZero? Honestly, it's a really, really good show. And I think this is something that, of course, Chris had to come in there with Midnight's amazing. I think it's something that a lot of people, especially if you haven't gone through a lot of aspects in life, like failing and coming back and forth, like some of the traumas that just happen through like daily activities, you'll probably look at the show and be like, "This is boring. This is unrealistic." Blah 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 blah. But as you grow older and you start looking back, you're like, you know what? That's like an anxiety that would. I did put down on taxi. Like that's sort of the anxiety that happens. Like in certain situations, or I can relate, I can empathize with the character in this situation. But I feel like a lot of people just shoot down ReZero because of that, because they're like, oh no, he just returns by death. And it's like, no, there's so much more to the show than that. Like it's quite literally someone dealing with different situations that are popping up, and the way that he deals with them are quite creative, I would say. Even if sometimes it's him banging his head up against the door. I heard that even ReZero has some copyright issues. Trust me, when I first started uploading it, I'd have to take them down and then re-upload them as well. Uh, Mostly because for some reason it just didn't like that I was going into deep analysis. Like the first two episodes are supposed to be like 40 to 50 minutes longer, maybe an hour and 30, I think, for the first one. But yeah, my computer couldn't handle it at the time. It was just a dumb laptop. Yeah, I think a lot of people do underestimate that. Like, something that I forgot what it was in my first couple of episodes when I was going through it, and I was sort of talking about how hard it would be for like anyone to survive the like return by death. Like people kept like because I used to have my DMs open. People would DM me or like just send me an email saying like, "Oh, I would survive. I would do this just fine. There'd be no issue." I'd be like top number one, and it's like, "No, that's impossible. I'm sorry." But like you would at some point. You're in a completely different culture, a completely different environment. You're gonna mess up somewhere or another, either by not meeting the cultural expectations, not seeing how others think, and also the fact that you're dying and you're feeling how you die is traumatizing. Like people get traumatized like off of like smaller things. Now imagine experiencing death over and over. Yeah, ReZero is great for that. I gotta admit though, it kind of scares me that he was a butcher and he got his ideas like while slicing up animals. But you kind of get the feeling for Elsa on that, right? Psychopaths. I've heard good things about that one, so I'll go ahead and write it down. Heard good things about Psycho Mob 100 as well. So I think so. I think it's not impossible, but I think it's very, very hard for someone of like, I guess, normal baseline mentality to not experience some form of trauma, anxiety, or depression while going through what Subaru has gone through, or even like getting the power of return by death. You know? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, people tend to overestimate themselves a lot. Um, which I guess it sort of falls into like that whole Subaru plotline, right? Where it's like you can't really think of yourself as like the main hero or something. Oh, everyone has told me the ReZero story, like the F stories, are important to watch or read. But I'm gonna read them after season two, just so that like I don't know, I don't because I already have a lot of theories like spread out, a lot of things prepared, and I don't want to like step on myself if that makes sense. Like I feel like if I step on one of the things that I'm like concluding in my mind, it's gonna completely shatter everything. Made in the Abyss. Don't read or watch until season three. When is season three coming out? Like I've been hearing that a lot, like, but don't have any like information about dates. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen that. Like they have the comments for the F stories, but I just don't read them. Like no offense to anyone, but like if it goes over a certain amount, or if any one of my mods tell me that it's a spoiler, I just skip over it. Or if my brother like deletes it first, yeah. Uh, ba, 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 ba.
Yeah. That's why I'm gonna wait at least until I'm done with season two, then decide for myself whether or not I should go ahead and read them or not. Just because um, there might be some people like that. Also, there's some people that like love to leave spoilery comments, thinking that I'm gonna read them first. After I like a video's uploaded, my brother actually comes through and like checks the comments as well as all the mods and starts deleting them. There are some that come through, and I'm sorry for those of you that are like brand new watching through it. Um, it can be kind of rough. It's the best way that I can put it. Like, um, the spoiler about like Beako and like her book being empty. Like, I went through in the morning. I was like checking the comments. I'm like, oh, this is really nice. And then I get to that one, and I'm like, oh, come on, dude. Like, that's not good. Um, some take place beyond the anime. Okay, season three is confirmed, just no date. I've heard a lot about Echidna. I will check out some of his videos. As I said, I'll probably wait till the end of season two. That way, I just have like a fresh mind about what's going on. I was watching a lot of holographic, a lot like in terms of like stepping in and just saying hi. Not on any of his ReZero streams, which is being like, "Hey, I hope you're doing well," whatever. Heard he's a really good YouTuber as well. So also, so I thought, what was it? The ReZero in 8 minutes. That was hilarious. Yeah, sadly, ReZero does attract a lot of people that want to spoil things. Actually, I'm kind of surprised that no one's been like spoiling anything here. I'm glad. Thanks, guys. Y'all are being really mature about it. A place further than the universe, or is that the name of the anime? Or oh no, we got copyright stuff. Oof, sucks. Subaru dies. How dare you spoil that? Ah, like just dumb joke spoilers are fine, but like anything else, it's a little rough. My okay, Ori living life and trying to be real. What do you guys think about what is it, girlfriend girlfriend? I know one of the mods was recommending that to me, but I kind of want to know what you guys think about that anime. Oh, really? The review? I haven't gone on the subreddit at all, only because like I've been told not to go on there because of spoilers, right? Um, but I would think that there would be like a lot of how would you put it? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of different themes that you can pick up that's not recyclable material. Like, what is the first thing that you would establish in this world? If you were a merchant, how would you get around? Uh, what nations, or like, if you could travel to any nation on there, why would you travel there? What would your first ability, if you did not have Subaru's abilities, what would they be and why? How would you interact? How would you learn the language? There's a thousand other things, right? Or like, would you try and get in contact with your parents? So like, just focusing on art, that's a bit rough. But hey, everyone likes everyone. Girlfriend, girlfriend, besto anime. I think that's it's a all right. Well, I think people like it. Trash plot but good fan service. Ooh. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm trying to do, man. Like before I even go in there and like post anything, um, just sort of finish season two at least, or finish the anime off. I know some people have been making posts with some of the videos that I made. Uh, So that's always good. I like when people go out and share stuff. So that's good. Girlfriend, girlfriend's hilarious. Huh. I mean, is there any like a lot of good psychology stuff in there, or is it just like typical romance thing where Watamote? All right, I'll jot that one down. Dang, you guys are making a full list for me here. Great, absolutely great.
Girlfriend will do the job. Oh, well, that might just be one that I actually watch on the side without posting it up. Uh, and if it's like just a relaxing anime to watch. I don't know how else to put it. Konosuba. Hmm. Didn't Konosuba release around the same time as ReZero? You don't watch with your top brain, you watch with your bottom brain, right? Oh, that's great. That's absolutely great. Just to watch OPM. Are you talking about One Punch Man? Death Note is a good anime. I'll give you that. I actually really like Death Note. Well, at least the first 13 episodes, 14 episodes. Rising of the Shield Hero. Is that the one with the like what is it? Like rape scene type thing, or was that the redo of a healer? Or the R scene rather well said? Oops. YouTube, don't blame me for that. One Punch Man has a cool philosophy, okay. What is Perfect Blue, actually? Why don't we get into that? Ah, Goblin Serum redo of a healer. I like how you point out too, off of just that. Code Geass, I have watched it. That's actually one of the few animes that like I really got into, and I was like, oh, okay, really impactful. Someone was recommending. I've seen a lot of dumb anime. I'll be honest, like anything that I know isn't like big psychological thrillers, just to keep my mind entertained. Every so often, but I've been so busy by work, it's limited. It's very limited. Completely normal. Someone was recommending. What is it? Sakamoto Deska, I believe. Someone kept recommending that to me on DM, and I was like, I'll ask. I'll see if that's actually good or what that's about. Haven't really looked at the screen title or anything past that. Um, that's the name. So yeah, let me know on that one. What's time? Yeah, that's a slime one. Yeah, the spider isekai. Is the spider isekai good? I've seen like I saw it pop up in like the anime website I go to, but I didn't know if it was good or like it actually reminds me of a book one of my friends really likes called Children of Time by I think it was Adrian Tchaikovsky. I have to look into it. Where like spiders get superhuman intelligence. So I'm not sure if it's like that or what's up. Good luck trying to analyze. Ooh, ooh. I think Neon Genesis Evangelion is just like a classic that would be interesting to analyze, but I think it would probably give me a lot of nosebleeds. Man Search for Meaning. I have not. Bad CG. Rabbit Sama. I have not read Man Search for Meaning. Is that like a big philosophical thing, or what are we getting into here? Actually, what I've currently been reading is a lot of focusing, just general self care, meditation, uh, stuff to say the least. So, oh wow, that's actually deep. Dang, I actually visited there. It's quite impactful place. Rather well said. Yeah, yeah. Like the memorial, of course. But oof, yeah, that sounds like a super meditation. Yeah, that sounds like a super deep book. But meditation is really hard, especially if you don't know what meditation is. Like a lot of people think that just humming is meditation, but it's not. Angel Beats. I have read Lolita, whatever you want to call it. Lolita, totally. Lolita, yeah, I have read it. It was a assignment from school, so yeah. Angel Beats. I've heard a lot of interesting things, but um, if it's 13 episodes, that ain't bad. That ain't bad at all. At school, it was super uncomfortable to read, especially when you have like one of those like creepy English professors. Not the best things. Not the best things at all. That was super uncomfortable to read. Yeah. Um, Isekai Quartet. A lot of, I think a lot of the mods have recommended that as well. So I'll look into that. I know that sometimes they have spoilers for the anime, so that'll be interesting to look into. What is psychological message of Lolita? I mean, read the book. That's the way that I can put it. I think that's one of the few topics that it's like, I guess a question sort of like Tanya. Ah, is that the one with the like the evil saga of Tanya or whatever? Well, I've seen Overlord, if that makes anything, because I know that Overlord is on there, right? Promise Neverland. Yes, Paolo. But I heard season two is really bad, so I've heard it's better to just read the manga on that one. Bunny Girl Senpai. You guys are throwing out so many interesting names. I'm just like, is this really psychological stuff, or is this just another an anime scene? Yeah. Well, anyway, Paulo. Yeah, I was just told I was recommended to go ahead and watch the manga on that one. Sorry about that. Yojo Senki. The Bunny Girl is actually a serious show with an interesting name. All right, what's Bunny Girl about? Like, give me just like a little bit. Don't tell me. Don't give me spoilers. Just give me a little bit. Trust me on the Bunny Girl, man. Az, I'm not sure if it's like crates where he recommends girlfriend. Oh, hey GC, how you doing? Okay, are we talking about psychosocial stuff or psychological stuff? It isn't about bunny girls, though. Oh, okay. Well, I'll write that down. I mean, if you guys want bunny girl, it is, right? Damn, you guys are trust Az teenage angst. Oh no! Ooh. Actually, speaking of like weird surprises, I watched the Chica dance on Twitch, or they kept sending me a bunch of like live reactions. Which, by the way, if you guys want me to go ahead and watch a video or something or analyze a video on YouTube, that's appropriate. Send it to me here or on chat if you can, and we'll go ahead and like watch some of those as long as it doesn't copyright strike me or whatever. Um, we might do a little bit more on Twitch specifically, only because it's not as bad there. But yeah, the Chica dance, it's amazing. It was so cute. to explore their deepest anxieties and trauma. Ooh, it is the best dance ever. Ah, I think Crates wanted me to go ahead and wear a wig and do it. Like one day, just go ahead and record like myself dancing to it. No, no. Maybe I'll do it as a sub goal or something, as a joke. We'll find out. Love is War. I've heard that Love is War is good in terms of like attachment psychology, so it would be interesting. Haven't really seen it other than like that. It's a comedy, yeah? Yeah, I would suggest all of you to stick around for the surprise for Twitch. We might just knock that out like up front when we get to Twitch, and best way that I can put it is I think you guys might like it. Best I have not played that visual novel actually. Not at all. Not at all. Right. Oh, Valhalla. No. Kaguya. Oh yeah, no, I'm totally gonna release my nude collection 101%, ranging from all the different movies and like the short films I've done. I'll show you guys everything. 100%. No, of course not. um, I guess in 10 minutes I'll go ahead and like let you guys know sort of like what we're doing on Twitch for a bit. Um, we might actually no. What we'll do here is I think I'm allowed to play Pokemon on here with all of you here, and we can do some naming and trade a little bit of a Nuzlocke here, finish it off on Twitch. And I'll tell you guys as we go, just to get you guys excited. But first, I gotta go pee, so I'll be right back. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Behave, behave. I'm watching all of you. Okay, I'm back. Let me put on my headphones. I don't want to. Hey, y'all behave. Yeah, it was a pee break. Oh no, don't spoil anything. Doki Doki Literature Club. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I take my phone with me and I just watch everything. How's everyone doing? By the way, if you guys have any psychology questions you guys want me to answer, yeah, well, I mean, I pee quickly, dude. Fruit emojis. Uh, but yeah, hi, hi. It was more likely to say I had to get rid of something that was on my hands. Luckily, y'all didn't notice that like I was eating chocolate beforehand, and I had a couple of like stains running through. So yeah. But anyway, um, yeah, I feel a lot of the psychological animes like that or animes, video games as well. It's always a little rough, especially because like you guys know that I can be like when I empathize with the character, I start crying. Like I'm a big crybaby. I don't mind saying it. It's great. Dude, that was like a 20-second go wash my hands. I said pee break, but in reality I was just gonna go wash my hands. uh bye, Spider-Well. Have a good night. Sure. Um MA, what's your question? Feel free to ask it. Even if it's just general psychology stuff, feel free to put it. Heart Underblade, is that a watermelon I see? Ah, I love watermelons. They're great. Fantastic. 10 out of 10. Yeah, Night Spider. Night Spider. Do 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 do. What's the best way to deal with intrusive thoughts? Okay, this is actually it's funny, right? Because you're always going to get two responses on this. When it comes to intrusive thoughts, I guess it just depends on the severity of it. Like if the thoughts are very harmful and negative types of things, aside from medication, right? Because like they'll try it, like people will try and put you on like a, oh, bye Tig, be safe. Aside from like if they're really really intrusive thoughts to the point where they're like stopping you from doing daily activities or whatnot, a good way that or something that you should try and look into is like how would I put it? Because they're cognitive distortions in a way that are essentially making these intrusive thoughts come in, and if you're acting on them or if you're stopping yourself from actually doing something, it's because these cognitive distortions or these self-representations are like overpowering what is what your conscious brain is trying to tell you, right? So it's a lot of your subconscious work. So what I tend to do is I tend to go down, it's called like a CBT breakdown. So for example, if one of the intrusive thoughts is you're worthless, right? Or you're never going to do A, Y, and Z, like why? It's just a simple question, right? Because, you know, you've never succeeded in this area. Why? Because you're this. Why? And you just keep going until you find a simple statement. For example, I think I'm worthless, right? You can even say why. Keep going until you just find a repetitive statement. Once you find that statement, what you can do from there is like it's a way to trick your brain and not trick your brain, but like yourself into being like, you know what, this might be the core belief that I have. This might be a schema that I have, but it doesn't define who I am as an individual. And my conscious brain can now like overrule sort of like the subconscious desires that are being pushed or the unconscious desires that are being pushed. I hope that makes sense. I hope it's not just like uh, me rambling for a bit, but like that's sort of what you can do is like make a list. And I know it sounds silly. Go down to like the most baseline that you can find on these intrusive thoughts. And it usually starts with an I statement, like I am this, I am that. And once you find that, just go off of that. Uh, right. There's a lot of self-help stuff online that like it's sort of like touch and go. For CBT anxiety workbooks and manuals, how would I put it? A lot of the CBT stuff has to be, it's usually like pushed on for a therapist to do, like therapists have to do these, but in reality, like when I read through the CBT stuff, it was like a lot of this is stuff that like if you have knowledge of, you can apply it yourself and it could probably like help a ton. So I have a grounding rule that tends to help with my anxiety because as silly as this is, like I'm an actor. I tend to do a lot of like theater plays, you know, do a little bit of voice acting on the side, so on and so forth. But yet, I still get social anxiety. Like, we can go out, we can dance or whatever, but the moment that I start becoming conscious of myself, my social anxiety starts popping up, right? So, something that I tend to do is sort of like my grounding rule of like 5 to 1. So, like, 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear. Just do a countdown of your senses, right? Whatever the one is, it's usually one thing I can taste, just because it's a little bit more steady for me. And it grounds me, right? So that's a good grounding technique that I've learned that's very common around anyone if you're having anxiety. So if you guys need that, hopefully it works for you guys. Um, Another big thing that like a lot of people don't really seem to pay attention to is like our senses do a lot of work for us. Like for example, what smells like home, right? Um, so if you're already having a really bad filled day, if you're really anxious or whatever, what I tend to do is like my office and my room, I tend to have like a candle that smells like just when I was back home, or you know, like a certain setting that relaxes me. And unconsciously, like I'm walking into this environment and I'm already like cooling down. I'm relaxing. It's already going down. But there was like a what is it? Like a CBT. I'll look into like the CBT for normal people. And it should be, yeah, this stream will be archived, or like it should be uploaded the moment we're done. So you should be able to go ahead and see it. But yeah, no. So that's a really good question. I hope that that answers your question there. You know, I've been like I'm doing good, Paula. Overall, like I've been super duper busy with work. I have like over 80 clients at the moment, 82 clients. And it's just a lot, especially with putting in notes. That's the best way I can put it. That's sort of why it's really hard for me to go ahead and like do some of the reaction stuff. So yeah. Any other questions, you guys? You guys are you talking about like writer's flow, actor's flow, like being in the flow? There's a lot of different ways that we can interpret it. Or are you just talking about like general like flow? How do you deal with people that are negative on themselves? Darkness. That's a very dark comment. That's a very dark question. Uh, the way that I deal with people that are very negative of themselves is so it's a redirect. It's empathizing and redirecting, right? Because, for example, I have a friend who tends to view as though the world is like shutting down around them or around like everyone's shooting him down. It's very pessimistic outlook on life. But when people talk to him, it's like, why can't you be positive? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? And it's like, we have to remember we're all different people. We have in no way a right to try and change other people's attitude if they don't want to go ahead and change that for themselves. And I think that's a big step in therapy and everything. Like, if a person doesn't take that first step, uh, how like if they don't want to take that first step and they're forced into therapy, it can be very traumatizing. Same thing with friends. Like, if we force a friend to change, or to like try and force them to look at things in a positive direction, it can be very harmful for them. Only because it's a sort of a forced upon action. But I will say, one of the best ways that you can go ahead and like influence them a little bit to try and like see the world a little bit lighter, empathize with them, reflect with them. So, for example, I've been having a really shitty day. My teacher's been absolutely horrible. I've been stunked with like work up to, I stay up until 2, 3 in the morning, so on and so forth. And it's like, hey, you know what? Like, that absolutely sucks. I'm not gonna lie to you, like, that sucks. But like, with all of this work and everything, it sounds like you're outdoing yourself, and I kind of want to be there for you and like help take a little bit of the stress off or something like that. It's just being there in the moment with them and empathizing will like lead a negative person to be like, I have someone that's there for me. Like, it's a chain of thought essentially. Hopefully that makes sense. It's like you're just leading them into a lighter and lighter situation by empathizing with them and reflecting. If you were a therapist, like one of the biggest things I would say is like uh, change of course outcome, right? It's a narrative technique, and you just essentially focus on the different outcomes that they can happen. So, for example, I have a really shitty teacher that's leaving all of this homework. One of the questions that I would ask is, why do you think she's leaving all of this homework for you? Do you feel like you're learning something while you're doing this homework, or do you feel like it's just a waste of time? So it's sort of that different perspective. I hope that answers your question, Darkness. That's actually a really good question, though. I like it. What is flow? So they're not all the same. So, for example, uh, an actor's flow and a writer's flow, although creative, is very different, right? An actor's flow is usually when there's an insane amount of pressure. I don't know how to put it, external or internal, and all of a sudden, like for example, when I'm performing, right? At first, it's all those nerves, but then the moment that like you hit a stride with everyone, with the environment, with that you're confident in your lines and you're confident with everything, the play will flow. Like you'll literally be building off one another, doing a lot of improv, um, pushing one another in such a nice direction that you don't really need to actively be thinking about it. It just goes through. It's a moment of creativity, a spark of creativity where you're perfectly balanced. And I think with writing, it's sort of pushing that narrative as well. In terms of just everyday flow or getting in the flow of everyday. Um, for work, it's more of a motivational factor, and then you have to question what that motivation is, right? So it's right in between like getting dopamine and like I don't know how to put it, like feeling like being inside your head with dopamine. Best way to put it. Oh, was it? That's actually interesting. Um, how do you help and cope with someone who wants to force you into a role in their narrative? So that sounds like a very manipulative individual, Midnight, if I'm being honest with you. People that tend to force you into their roles of or in the narratives. Like, don't get me wrong, in everyone's narrative, whether you like it or not, and I hate to put it this way, even myself included, like we are like in one way or another, we will all be seen as neutral, positive, or in negative lights, right? Um, One of the biggest things that I've noticed is like people that tend to involve you or force you into their narrative perspective. It's often because they themselves are unsure of where they stand in your narrative. So by incorporating you, by forcing you into their narrative, they're trying to like equalize the field for some reason. Like they have this need to try and go ahead and keep you in this like mentality, right? So the best way that I can tell you is the best thing that you can do, especially if it's getting to a point where it's very manipulative or you're being uh, forced to a level where it's constant that they're like, you know, you should do this or like you fit this role, right, like pushing this role onto you or being sweet to the point where it's like sort of a you're putting up these walls in this distance. What I would suggest to you is quite literally to distance yourself. And it might be a little hard, especially if they're a friend, but uh, if people that tend to force others into narrative usually won't stop unless it's called out. So if you feel like they're forcing into their narrative and you call it out and they don't stop, distance yourself, find some boundaries. That's honestly probably the best advice I can give you is after you announce it to them, like, hey, you know what, I feel uncomfortable because I feel as though you're like, I don't know, like you're putting me in this awkward position. And if they don't respect that, like your boundaries have to go up and you do have to force a little bit of distance. Even if you love them to death, you know, how do I put it? If someone overrides your boundaries once, they're willing to do it again. Like there needs to be that constant level of respect between one another. Hope that answered your question. What are my thoughts on nihilism? Um, well, there's a big form of therapy that actually goes into a little bit of nihilism and existentialism. I think um, a lot of nihilistic people tend to, like optimistic people too, tend to feel as though the world only works one way. I tend to work in the gray area, for example, where there's a good and bad in this world, and sometimes it is what it is, if that makes sense. Um, like there can be really good days, there can be really shitty days, and out of every day, usually our interactions are what help us get through the day. I hope that makes sense. I think, if anything, just it's okay to be nihilistic, but it's also like you also have to watch yourself with your train of thought. Because like when I was younger, I had a really negative train of thought that would often get me into very very dark places. So it's just watching where that takes you. I suspect my mental health went through a bad time. What's the best way to be a supportive friend? Okay, yeah, no. If a friend's going through a bad time, um, the best thing that you can do is go ahead and be there for them. Like I know it's awkward to ask, but it's best that you do go ahead and ask, right? Because what I've noticed in like a lot of the situations that have happened, especially with some of the teenagers and even young adults, like we're talking 20, 25, 26, 27, you ask them like, hey, like, you know, or at least I've asked some of them in session, like, what would you like for your friends to do? And they're like, honestly, if they would have asked, that would have made a difference. Um, so I genuinely hope that, like, if anything, this sort of talk makes you guys comfortable enough to go ahead and be like, I'm not afraid of certain situations to go ahead and like ask them like, hey, are you doing okay? Like, and if they deny it, just be like, hey, like, I don't mean to push, but like emotionally or mentally, are you okay? Like, what can I do for you? And sometimes just even asking that, it goes a long way for everyone. So it's just asking, like, are you doing okay mentally and emotionally? Um, and then from there on, the best thing that you can do is be empathetic. But that's a wonderful thing to do. So how does a mind body connection affect our emotions? So here's the thing: when your mind and body aren't in sync, you'll find yourself that there's often a lot of disassociation, right? There tends to be a lot of anxiety, a lot of like different forms in which our mind revolts against whatever our like situation is happening. And it's either trying to find being content with the way that you are, or trying to grounding yourself, right? Because when people disassociate, um, so I can share some stories like this. For example, way back in the day, one of my clients actually used to be, how would I put it? Like, I guess a social worker. We'll put it that way. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? One of the big things that was happening was that they would go ahead and disassociate, like aside from their work environment, they would disassociate while buying groceries. They would disassociate when they were, with their friends. They would disassociate in certain environments. And it was, when asked and when going through this, like without giving too many details, when going through this story and we're going through her own personal narrative, it was like, what were the triggers? What was happening, right? And one of the big things was like not happy with where she currently was as an individual, not happy with where their body currently was going through and where they wanted to be, right? And sort of making that step to try and find something that makes them happy was ultimately what stopped the disassociation, finding themselves in the moment and being there with them. Hopefully, yeah, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Like mind body connections are really, really important. And if anything, I would suggest just checking in, especially if you're disassociating. Write it down. Write down what's happening. I implore you guys to go ahead and keep track of that. Really, really important. Here's the thing, Midnight. We're closely related. Even if you can't fully distance yourself, if you can just bring it up, the fact that like you're uncomfortable by it, and like if you're like, hey, you know what, I've noticed this, and I think that like it's important for you to go out and seek out help, especially because, like, for example, my brother tends to do something similar. I tend to call it out. I'd be like, hey, you know what, bro, you're making me follow the same train of thought, only to like affirm you, only to make you be like, yeah, like I'm your yes man when I'm not, and like I think that this is wrong, and it sucks, especially when it's family or when it's someone that you're closely related to. But even just bringing up the topic, like, this, I can't really go along with everything that you're saying. It's a bit of a pushback, and sometimes people need that. But it's still really brave of you to go ahead and bring that up, and I applaud you for even thinking about that. You know. No, thank you, Paulo. That was actually a really, really good question. Suggested some. Yeah, so it's always a tricky situation, right? Like it's okay to go ahead and ask a friend if they're going through something, but it's never okay to step in. Like I don't know how to put it. Like be like, oh, well, here's some coping mechanisms that can help. Only because, yeah, 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 and we can empathize. Like I've had several friends where like they have had similar anxiety or similar depression, but like sometimes when we I don't know, when we call out or when we push certain scenarios on them, like, hey, you know what, like, why don't you try these coping mechanisms? I know that we're doing it out of the goodness of our heart to try and help them, but for them, it's like you're bringing them to a realization moment that maybe they're not ready for. Maybe they are depressed, but maybe they haven't acknowledged it. And you bringing them up to this point and being like, hey, you know what, you're depressed. Here are the coping mechanisms that help me. It's like, no, like you're complete. It's like a big, like, I don't know how to put it, like a shock to their world. So it's just something to be aware of, especially when you're going through something like that. Like the best way that I could have done it, or like that I've learned to do it now, is simply ask, like, for example, with one of my friends, I'm always like, hey, are you doing okay, like emotionally? Are you doing okay mentally? And if they're like, yeah, I'm doing fine, be like, hey, I'm here for you if you ever need anything. Like, don't be afraid to speak up. And then I share my personal narrative where I'm like, yeah, like I've been going through a lot of anxiety recently and blah, 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 blah. I don't over push it. I'm just like, but like, if you ever need to talk about anything, I'm here for you. And then just leave it at that. Even if it hurts us, we can't push our narrative of like trying to get information or trying to help someone unless they're ready for it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And that's exactly it. And midnight, no problem. Yeah, it's just, it's a really brave situation that, like, first off, that you're sharing this and that you're going through all of this. So I'm just proud that you're able to open up for all of you guys, like, and ask these questions. Ever seen this site? Eh? Eh? What's like? Blow me away, the bomb. Da 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 bomb. Now you guys are bringing in like some good questions up in here. Yeah, let me type it in. Here, I'm checking it out while we're going through this. Why am I getting anxious just from like the way that this site is laid out? So I'm glad that there's like a question answer type thing, but it feels as though there's like a lot. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm glad that there's a Lifeline crisis chat. Here, I'll probably share it, but it does seem like genuine mental health advice. But I hope they fix their site a little bit, because if anyone's a little bit anxious, like gets anxious in general or whatever, the layout of the site is a bit rough in terms of like the way that things pop up. Makes me feel like Whisper, if that makes sense. Like that's an old app. What should we do in situations where someone's being very negative towards you because they're depressed? So in situations where someone's being very negative towards you, even if you love them, again, distance, man. Any form of attachment, the moment that someone's overstepping a boundary, you could first be like, hey, you know what? Like, you know what? I feel as though you're being very, like, forward, or like maybe you're a little, I don't know how to put it, like, rude, if anything. And if, like, if you're very upfront about it and be like, you know, I want to keep our friendship working, you know, I really want to be nice to you, but like, set those boundaries. And then, if anything, distance. Boundaries, and distance are keys towards relationships, especially when you have to process, or when they have to process something. I hope that made sense. I mean, it does have a lot of information like GAD, like PTSD, social anxiety, which is great. True. But I feel like this is just general information that you can probably get off of, like, for example, for the American version, it'd be the DSM, diagnostic tools. But it's very good in terms of like marking down. Are you talking about like a trauma or depression carbon? Because it's very different to process um, something like that, right? Because depression can be linked to trauma. So that's why I'm like, if you're talking about like, what if they can't process a situation that's happened in their life, and they're depressed or anxious, and they haven't really done anything to improve it themselves? Best way that I can put it, it's not up to you to push anything on them. It's up to you to be like, hey, you know, especially if they acknowledge the fact that they're depressed or they're anxious. Like, it would be cool if someone was like, hey, you know what, like, if you talk to them about it, like, you know, hey, are you doing okay, like, whatever, and they're like, hey, you know what, um, I'm not. And then you can be like, well, why don't we talk about like maybe visiting a counselor or a therapist or something like that? Like, because in order for them to like process the trauma, like here's a good example. When people process a breakup, right, and like being an attachment like specialist, a lot of people tend to go to their friends or family, which is some of the worst things that you can do. Because you go to your friends and family, and boom, well, the first thing they do is they try and change narrative. Narrative changing, narrative perspectives. You should have known better. This person was bad for you. Like, it's usually one of those two. We can do so much better. Look at so many fish in the sea, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, it's like, take a minute, process what just happened, then feel for yourself if you want to take step A or step B. Because the moment you let others into this, like, circle room of talking, like what can be a healing environment can then turn into a very toxic situation. Oh, well, if they're toxic to you, why are they still around you? Like if and I hate to put it this way, but the moment that they acknowledge that they're toxic and they're not willing to do anything about it, that's a red flag. That's a huge ass red flag. And if Well, I am sorry, because like that's a big flag, like red flag. If she's toxic, it might just be immaturity depending on their age. Like, yeah, it could just be immaturity based on their age. It could also just be the fact that that's how they've grown up, and that's something that like we need to like consider. That like sometimes like the way that we grew up is very different than the way our parents grew up, or the way that our sibling grows up, or whatever, right? But if they haven't really done anything to improve themselves, my big question there, right, is what is the attachment? Because usually, if she's your sister, and let's say that you guys are young, I don't know how old you are, Carpin, but I'm just gonna make an assumption, like, or base it off of if you guys were like teenagers to 20 something year olds. What was the relationship to your parents like, right? And at that point, why is it okay for someone to acknowledge that they're toxic and not want to work on it? And also, how is she toxic to you? There's so many different things, or how are they toxic to you, you know? Hmm, that's interesting. And then same thing with parents and vice versa, you know, like when asking them, it's like, why did they have you and why are they acting in a certain way towards you? Like it's very much a big thing. That's a big age gap, yeah. If anything, Carbon, the only big thing that I could suggest is like, especially if you want to get an understanding of where she's coming from, like a serious, just be like, hey, I want to know how it was like for you growing up. And like, yeah, empathize. Because I bet you anything, like if there's a big negative sentiment towards you in any way, shape, or form, empathizing with them and just reflecting on their like situations will change things a little bit. Some family issues that were never solved and probably can't without me. That's a big one. It depends. It depends on what that situation is, right? If it's a big situation, like we're talking, uh, like any form of abuse, anything like that. The biggest thing, the biggest thing that you can do, I guess, is be upfront about it. Only because anxiety will always come. And if, for example, a lot of people in my culture, they'll try and downplay it when you bring it up. Even when you're anxious and you're like, hey, we need to talk about this, they'll try and downplay it and shift the perspective or the narrative. But like, no, it's not me. It's this, it's that, it's whatever. And it's like, hey, this is something that we need to come together and solve, right? So you can try and address it, but if people aren't willing or ready to tackle the issue, that's where a lot of the anxiety comes from. And that's where I'm like, it's just depending on your family dynamic. Um, Something I tell a lot of people to do to get ready to prepare themselves, especially when dealing with any big family issue, is to go ahead and write a letter. I know it sounds silly, or like type something up about what you want to address and how you want to address it. And honestly, that's probably the best thing to do is like build yourself up to a point where you're ready to go ahead and talk to at least one person in the family. Doesn't matter if it's the whole family together. If you start with one individual and work your way through, and then have everyone together at the end, it could be a really impactful experience. You see, but that's sort of the thing, Harvin. It's like if it sounds like you're going right. It sounds like you're going through a lot, right? And like I I can't even understand sort of like being in a situation like that where it's like like a lot of manipulation, a lot of guilt, um, especially if there's like a lot of how would I put it, like disrespect. It's sort of like even if you try and talk to her and like even if all of this is happening, um, I know it sucks to say that like yeah, it sounds really really frustrating. But one of the biggest things that I would suggest or I would say, and this is like no like not really counseling advice, more like a coach life type thing, is like addressing it, like not addressing it in like a standard way, but like being very direct and upfront about it. Um, if anything, that's the way that like I've learned a lot of people, uh, you know, take action or sometimes are surprised by because you're not expecting a good natured individual to be upfront about any situation. Um, but for those of you that aren't on Discord, go ahead and like join our Discord. I tend to like, there's a venting channel, and if you guys need any help or any life coach advice, drop it in there, and everyone's more than willing to help. Anyway, before I get my water bottle, I will tell you guys what we're gonna do on Twitch. So on Twitch, we're actually gonna do a live reaction to episode 10 with you guys there. We're gonna try it out. We're gonna see how far we go. Um, if you guys would be interested, and no, don't apologize. I'm sure that you guys are super nice. I really like, I'm sorry for everything that you guys are going through, and like some of these questions I know are a lot in a lot of situations, but I'm proud of all of you guys for opening up and asking those questions because sometimes we don't know where to ask. I'll be honest. When I was going through all of my shit, my personal stuff, I didn't know who to ask. I was very like taken back, right? I was like, oh no, like what do I do? Like who do I ask? I'm really anxious. I'm really this. I just went through a really bad breakup. But yeah, it's brave of you guys, and I'm really proud of you. And I'm trying to do like a live stream Fridays. I don't know if you guys would be interested in that. Where we just go ahead and like live stream Fridays, do a little like AMA, maybe play some games, do some things together on Twitch. Well, after we react, we'll do some of that. But for now, yeah, I hope you guys are ready. Live reaction. We're gonna go ahead and do that in. Hopefully the chat is clean as can be. Go ahead and follow at Psyculturists on Twitch. I'm gonna go get a water bottle, and with that being said, I appreciate you guys for being here. Hope to see you guys on Twitch. I will see you guys there in approximately 2 minutes, if that makes sense. See, as much as I would like to make it on like voice chat before I end, it's like it is also addressing sort of the community, what's going on, and adding everything here. But anyway, I will see you guys on Twitch, and bye guys. I love you.